Welcome back to the Lars Larson Show. I told you already that one of the most troubling aspects of this election is that the mainstream media, which is allowed to not call the shots on an election, but simply report the results, even after this morning, the Trump campaign announcing that it would ask for a recount in Wisconsin, which is allowed under state law, and that they would launch some legal challenges as well involving other states, the mainstream media went ahead and said, oh, that doesn't matter. We're declaring victory for Biden in some of the other states. Now, I thought we'd talk about that with Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton, who joins me now. Tom, good to have you back. And are we looking at months of court battles, or will this be decided by the Electoral College voting in mid-December?
Oh, I don't know at this point. It depends whether the outcome of the election is credible to either candidate in a particular state, because there are potential challenges not only in court, but even before Congress, once it goes to Congress, who in the end actually blesses the results of the Electoral College.
And they have to do that. But at this point, if the Trump campaign is saying we want to recount Wisconsin and it's narrow enough that it's justified under state law, and if they say we have some legal challenges in mind when it comes to Michigan and other states, where are those likely to go, and how quickly are they likely to be heard?
You know, my suspicion is that the challenges as currently constructed by the Trump campaign won't overturn particular election results. You know, I just go back, Lars, to this first principle. The election was yesterday, and we had 5 or 6 states stall on releasing the totals that they were supposed to release yesterday till Lord knows when. And that's not appropriate. And we had in one particular state in Philadelphia, they just shut down ballot counting for no good reason. That alone is an indicia of fraud. So, you know, in my view, you got to kind of take this long picture, long view. Is the election result in a particular state, does it have the confidence of the American people, and more importantly, you know, the House and the Senate when it comes up?
Do you think based on how it's gone down, and as you point out, the suspicious moves of shutting down counting in the middle of counting instead of counting until the job is done, should we have confidence in that kind of result? And if we don't, what's the right way to challenge it?
Well, there's legal challenges, and then there's the constitutional challenge through Congress. You know, my concern is that there's nothing normal about what's going on. We never have had in modern history that I can recall multiple states delaying the results of the victor in a presidential contest. Federal law requires those results be disclosed yesterday. It hasn't happened. So it's a real legal conundrum, and it's in my view a lot simpler than the media will have you believe. We should have selected a president yesterday, and now we're in unknown country in terms of legal and constitutional fights over what's happening now.
Well, and in fact, we had a number of states that asked that they extend the deadline to take ballots well after Election Day, ballots that didn't have matching signatures to the election, to the register card. We had states that said we want to take ballots that don't have postmarks on them. And some of the states wanted to do this all the way to Friday or even beyond. Those things should be challenged. Do you think the federal DOJ has a role to play in this?
I would think so. You know, if your rights are being stolen, if your votes are being negated by illicitly counted ballots, that's a civil rights violation. And the Justice Department, in my view, ought to be upholding the federal statutory laws. You can read it in 3 or 4 different places in the U.S. Code about the election day was supposed to be yesterday. I mean, this is probably the biggest news flash for the audience. The election was supposed to be decided yesterday under federal law. And, you know, we've kind of walked past that. You have 24 states almost count ballots for days, if not weeks afterwards. In California, it's 17 days. Ohio, I think it's 20 days. And, you know, that may not change the outcome of the election, you know, in terms of counting the ballots, but they were supposed to decide who their choice was in terms of electors yesterday, no matter when they're counting the ballots.
Did we end up with that kind of result because there was a concerted effort to push vote by mail, supposedly justified by the COVID-19 or the pandemic, and that they pushed that knowing that it would create exactly this kind of situation with confusion about the count?
Well, I've been warning about the chaos and the potential for increased fraud and undermining our system with this unprecedented vote by mail push. And the left knew this was going to happen, and they were prepared for it. And it's, typically the Republicans, even though they had plenty of warning, seem to be caught flat-footed.
Is this what you meant when you wrote the book, A Republic Under Assault, that you were warning about exactly this kind of thing, that we have a republic if you can keep it, ma'am, and that now we see what can really be done if people are willing to act outrageously, to manipulate the results of an election, even manipulate the way people vote so that the results will be uncertain and leave us in this kind of situation? Because that's why I see it as it was an effort to push vote by mail to a much higher level than it was in 2016 for no good reason, because they knew that would be the outcome of this.
Yeah, they thought they could benefit politically from doing that, but as we are pointing out here, that's fine, all well and good. It's not an improper reason for trying to, we have a republic. You can play around with the rules within reason. But there was no reasonable reason to basically lead to an unsecure election by mailing 100 million ballots and ballot applications to people who didn't ask for them, to lists that they knew were dirty. And so, it undermines, in the least, confidence in the outcome of the elections. It may not change, practically speaking, who is selected or elected president, but it certainly taints the process. And that's what, the republic is weakened as a result, hence the title of the book. And I go into this whole effort by the left to undermine virtually every election integrity measure, voter ID, cleaning up the rolls, and anything that anyone with any good sense would support. And in my view, the only reason not to support that is because they want to be able to steal elections when necessary.
No, it seems the same way to me. That's Tom Fitton. His book is called, brand new book that's out, A Republic Under Assault. He is the president of Judicial Watch, and we always appreciate his point of view. I appreciate your point of view as well. If you want to vote in our Twitter poll tonight, it's easy to find. You can go to Twitter. That's at Lars Larson Show. If you don't like Twitter, go to my website. That's larslarson.com. Did Americans see a legitimate election last night, or did they witness cheating to win? I'm going to have to go with the latter rather than the former. Tonight's Twitter poll brought to you by AMAC. In last night's Twitter poll, I said, will election night last night, produce a clear winner? And I said yes, and clearly I got that one wrong. Do you know what we got? A 50-50 result out of the Twitter poll. Your calls are welcome at 866-HEY-LARS. That's 866-439-5277. Send your emails to talk@larslarson.com and tell your Alexa to play the Lars Larson Show.